The US Africa Summit, shift in US policy. There's more that meets the eye. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stream Dialogue. On July 9, five African presidents were summoned to Washington for the US Africa Summit 2025. Five presidents from country of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Senegal, and Mauritania. On the surface, the meeting appears to be, to offer new hope for these African countries. You know, if we analyze from the beginning of this administration, you see there's a shift in U.S. policy, not just towards Africa, but toward the world, of an aid-based relationship where, aid is offered for, concession, mining concessions and so forth, which we know never benefits, the population of these countries. Hence why Africa and the Caribbean and other global South countries are, considered to be third world, poor countries. So this is a shift to a more trade-based relationship, so-called win-win relationship. But there is no trade in this relationship. This is the same exploitative relationship that we find ourselves in for the past decades. These leaders were chosen not because of their, visionary, leadership or their vision for their country or their continent. They were chosen because of, their compliance to whatever demand that the imperialists are making, or these whatever this administration is making. So these leaders does not represent the direction in which the African continent is going, or even the rest of the world is going. They were, like I said, they were chosen because they are compliant. These are, let's face it, these are not very strong leaders. This is why revolutionary leaders from the Sahel, from the AES countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, were not invited. And even a country like, which is not a revolutionary country, but I think the revolutionary sentiment is still there, Guinea Conakry, in terms of the population desire, because Guinea Conakry has always been a revolutionary state since its founding by, may soul rest in perfect peace, Ahmed Sékou Touré. So this administration in the US wants to shift, like I said, to make it look from a aid-based relationship to a trade-based relationship. We can see this coming from a few months ago with the dismantling or this rolling back of USAID on the continent and throughout the world. These organizations have been basically exposed. They've been shown that, you know, let's face it, these aid they've been giving Africa and throughout the world haven't really, you know, given us any form of development. And we can see that these, organization and these agencies were always used to, influence government, overthrow government, is used for regime change, undermining of governments and so forth. So this is a shift in policy, but this is not a shift in the relationship between, the West or the US in this case and Africa. This is just to keep Africa the global supply chain of what they want for Africa to, just to be the supplier of raw materials. You know, one of the key one of the key things and key thing that I noticed about this this summit, there was no mention whether in the press release, and so there was a lot of talk about democracy and just a bunch of word salad and so forth. But there was not no talk about, technology transfer. These are countries that are rich in natural resources, but there was no talk about technology transfer, development, and things such as transfer technology in, like, in even mining, even though we should be far beyond that during this time. There was no talk or agreement about building refineries, for example. You can refine the minerals in the country. Or let's say we saw the president of Mauritania um, nervously introducing himself and his country, where he was saying Mauritania is a small country, which, if you look at the map and look at Mauritania in terms of land size, this is a very, very massive country. It's also in the Sahel, which had geopolitical implication. We have to take a look at that as well, analyze that as well. But Mauritania, the president of Mauritania, Ghazwani, was introducing himself, fumbling over his words. Maybe they should have checked his his seat. Maybe he kind of wet his seat there. He kind of wet his seat there, but he was mentioning all the resources that Mauritania had, and potential resources. He was mentioning that Mauritania had oil, gas, uranium, and even possible lithium, and wherever there's uranium, there's normally gold. These are very African countries are very rich. So there was no talk about, let's say you have uranium, why don't we build a e- nuclear power plant or something, as we see in the AES. These are countries that has abundance of uranium, and you see Mali has signed an agreement with the Russian Federation. Burkina Faso signed agreement to build the nuclear power plants. But there was no substance to this 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 summit on the side of Africa. That is, it's just the same old. And I think we are past that part, even though a lot of us, you know, we reacted very emotionally, myself included, to see our leaders being treated like children. They were st- standing behind, daddy, as he's called in Europe, to take pictures like like high school children visiting some official, or visiting the principal office, getting schooled, excited, and so forth. So the fur- the further we'll go, we will see that this is basically a continuation of Western policy towards Africa throughout the years. And to quote the man himself, the host of the summit, he said it himself. He said he heaped his praise on Africa by saying Africa's has very valuable land, great minerals, and great oil deposits. So again, this is all about supplying, the West with its, addiction and its, insatiable appetite for Africa's raw material. No technology transfer, and this is just to keep those countries, in a state of poverty and so forth. Thank you for coming today. We try to, when stuff like this happens, we try to analyze it. We try to, dig deep into it, even though we can react emotionally, on TikTok, wherever you go, people are, really, really angry at this day, which rightly so, but beyond that, we have to go and see like these people just um don't just do things like this by inviting just five African leaders to the US just like that, just to embarrass them. You know, it's way it's way deeper than that, and it's very easily missed. And like I said, this summit has been building up for months since the first cut of USAID, even with the tariffs and so forth. These countries were targeted purposefully. Thank you so much for coming back, watch this video. We're on YouTube, stream, STREAM dialogue, DIALOGGUE. You can find us on YouTube. The longer version, if you're watching us on TikTok, will be on our YouTube channel. And we plan to do more, like, it's what it says, stream and dialogue. So we will talk a lot more, just to reason. It's all about reasoning for us of African. We live in a time now where it's just quick. Everybody just want to watch a 5-second videos and react. Our emotions goes up, then we forget about one thing, then the next day something happens. It's like a emotional roller coaster. So let us sit back, um support people like us who are doing this, and also, as African people, you watch a lot of Western geopolitical analysts. They all have their show. They all support each other. So let's just come together and support this thing. Africa is at the center of this 21st century. Whoever controls Africa controls the world. So how about, it's time that Africa control Africa. Africans control Africa, control our resources, control our development, control our destiny. Thank you so much for coming. Salute.